caught the live streamers out. They always think I'm going to be 5 minutes late, and tonight I'm bang on time. So up yours if you pop for a quick wee or you're making yourself a cup of tea. We're live and we're early. Anyway, let's start off with Manchester United set massive transfer fees in relation to some of their key targets this summer. We'll also be talking about a few things about the Deadwood FC, and I want to draw a line under Herrera. There's been a big development today, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and I think it's time to just draw a line under that. But let's start off. Look, Koulibaly last night played against Arsenal for Napoli. Things coming out today that that Napoli would want in excess of £75 million that was paid for Virgil van Dijk back in the summer. No, it was not. It was January last year, wasn't it? So that's the sort of fee that Napoli would be looking at, and I think £90 million would do it for Koulibaly. And I think that the point of this really is that a lot of players get mentioned around Manchester United, but many of the fees are already set. And many of those fees are probably non-negotiable, and it's really about whether the club, but obviously we're a fan channel, whether you think it's worth it. For me, Koulibaly, £90 million, I've been saying this for months now, maybe 80 million, but probably more likely 90 million would get you Koulibaly, who I think is coming up for 28. Is that the right fee to go for? Or do you want Alderweireld at 25 million? Or do you want to try and get De Ligt, who I don't think you can do, at 19? But that's what he's going to cost. And more interestingly, you'll see from the video, from the picture in the thumbnail, Bruno Fernandes, Joao Felix, both tearing it up in Portugal, both very, very big targets for many Manchester United fans. If you don't know who they are, we'll talk about them in a minute. But many of you lot, learned, well-educated Manchester United fans, feel that these two players, well, probably not both of them, but one of these two players could make a massive impact at Manchester United. Joao Felix, €130 million release clause, so that's about £100 million. Bruno Fernandes, £100 million release clause, so that's about £80–85 million. Would you want to spend that on Bruno Fernandes, 24 years of age? Would you want to spend that on Joao Felix, 19, £100 million? If you spend it, you get them. That's what the release clause is. Man City are floating around both players. A lot of players are floating around both players. Are they what Manchester United want? And this is like, you know, things are going to buzz around. They're going to buzz around. They're going to change. Jadon Sancho's the same. He's another £100 million player. Is that the sort of fees you think that Manchester United should be spending on these sort of players? Because the fees are there. You know, we're not going to get them for 30 million. That's not going to happen. They're going to cost a lot of money. And with a lot of them, because it's Europe, release clauses do exist. They do exist. And, you know, only today we're hearing that Real Madrid would be happy to let Toni Kroos go for 50 million because they want to rebuild their midfield. And that's another argument, isn't it? It's the old Alderweireld argument. Is like, do we want to be part of a rebuild, or do we want to take other players that are good players from other clubs who are trying to lower their average age? We hear contrasting things from Manchester United. We hear about youth, but then we see Deadwood. I mean, we could be using young fullbacks tomorrow. There are young fullbacks there that I would rather see playing than an Ashley Young who can't play tomorrow, or an Antonio Valencia who can't play tomorrow. A Darmian. Very interesting things about Darmian coming out. But do United want to lower their average age of the squad? Because the problem with United's, you know, it's a bit like Game of Thrones. I'm going to be topical here. You know The Walking Dead? That's a different show. You know the dead, the blue people who are dead, and then they kill somebody, and then that dead person becomes somebody. That's a bit like the Deadwood at Manchester United at the moment, because we've got Deadwood, let's just say people like, I don't know, Ashley Young, Antonio Valencia, Matteo Darmian, they're Deadwood, but the longer they stay at the squad, and we don't remove them, they touch somebody else, and that somebody else becomes Deadwood. Like this year, I think that Juan Mata's almost become a bit Deadwood. Some people would say Ander Herrera's become Deadwood. Ashley Young is Deadwood. Matic, is he on these, you know, we're not only are we acquiring Deadwood, we're recruiting it as well. And it is a bit like the blue-faced people on The Walking Dead. I think we've got an emoji for that. The Night Walkers, says George Kyle. Exactly. And I think we are almost becoming that. And do we want to lower our average age of our squad, or are we going to keep retaining people? I mean, Marcus Rojo could well be playing against West Ham tomorrow. He's come out with quotes saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has assured him that he's a big part of the plans. Are those plans till May, or are they long-term plans? Why is Marcus Rojo part of our long-term plans if that's the case? He is the Argentinian Phil Jones. He's took on that mantle. Phil Jones is fit more than Marcus Rojo. So, and Marcus Rojo's of that age where he's only going to get more injured. So I think we do need to be lowering our age a little bit. I mean, Koulibaly's a very, very experienced centre-back. And it's interesting because I don't think that experience is a bad thing. I really, really don't think it is. Interestingly, if you saw my video last week where I was talking about... I will centre in on some topics in a moment. I realise that I'm I'm going from one topic to another. But last week I did like the 5 transfers that Manchester United could make for 260 million quid. And one of those 5 transfers, and they were only my picks, I said Thomas Meunier. He's 28. He's a Manchester United fan. He's flirted with us in the past. His statistics, you know, in relation to goals and assists for a right back are great. He's a good height. He's quick. He's very experienced. For me, he would be the perfect player to bring into Manchester United at right back. He can also play in the midfield. He can also play at centre back at a push. But basically, Delot is going to be our right back for years to come, I believe. But Meunier can be that experience for a couple of years alongside him. That's why I would want Meunier. And then this week, we're hearing that Manchester United may well be moving away from Wan-Bissaka and more towards Meunier because he's cheaper, he's more experienced, and they do believe in Delot long term, which is encouraging to me. I don't mind a bit of experience if there's a plan with that experience. I mean, like, you could get Alderweireld in for a couple of years and then have Twansibi. Twansibi's doing absolutely fantastically well at Villa. I think he needs another year, and hopefully Villa get promoted. He can stay at Villa and have a year in the Premier League, because I think he's mastered the Championship this year, and a year in the Premier League for him would be very, very good. But I think United need to look long-term. We do need to look long-term, and long-term does mean patience. I've said this before. In my mind, I'm resetting the clock, and it's hard. I think we're all struggling with it. It is hard to reset the clock when you've got a situation with Manchester United whereby it's been so long since we've won the league, and we are seeing our major rivals like Liverpool about to win a Premier League. It's looking like it, and we're miles away from that. But you know, we can't keep making these quick ad hoc decisions hoping it's going to be it's like buying a lottery ticket hoping to win the £1 million. What we need to do is put some infrastructure in and hard work in and earn our £1 million, because that's going to provide us with some longevity. Gareth Bale, Real Madrid, they think they're going to get an English club to spend over 100 million on him this summer. There's only one plonker I can think of who might do that, and he's our chief executive, because I like Ed Woodward, but I think he's like the football fan who buys the half and half scarf. He hasn't got a football background from what I know. I don't even know if he was ever a United fan. A good businessman. Is he a good football man? I think he's one of those football fans that when you go down the pub, you know, the bloke who doesn't really know anything about football and just starts talking about Messi and Ronaldo, and, you know, all his terms are totally wrong, like offside, you know, he's just got it all wrong. I think that's Ed Woodward. So I think when Real Madrid ring him up in the summer and say you can have Gareth Bale for 100 million, he's like, yes, what a great deal it is, because he probably doesn't understand what a bad deal it is. That would be a bad deal. I don't think Gareth Bale offers us anything. But it's going to be very interesting. And going back to the Bruno Fernandes is a beast, says Rahuf. In relation to Bruno Fernandes, what I would say about him is that, well, let's talk about them both. There's 2 players that United are heavily linked with. We are heavily linked with these. You can't argue about it. It's the truth. We are heavily linked with both of these players, Joao Felix and Bruno Fernandes. Now, in relation to those players, Bruno Fernandes is 24, Joao Felix is 29. Now, a lot of United fans are saying, well, yeah, I'd like to buy both. I'd like to buy both. I'd like to buy one of them. Let's get rid of Pogba and bring Bruno Fernandes in. And the reality is, with those 2 players, I feel that there's so many if, buts and maybes with Manchester United at the moment, and we all know that. But it's about how and what we're going to do. And we're stuck in this situation, aren't we, where we don't know whether we're in the Champions League next year. We don't know whether we're going to beat West Ham tomorrow. But then there's this summer that we all know is absolutely huge. It's like, it really is hard to predict. But United will be doing business now. We will be doing business now. And we will probably be getting players in now that will be announced in the summer. So it's exciting in many ways, because those players are going to have to commit to us, not knowing whether we're in the Champions League or not. The thing that worries me about Portugal is Joao Felix at Benfica and Bruno Fernandes at Sporting Lisbon. They're both doing very, very well. Joao Felix just reminds me of a Man City player. If I'm totally honest, he reminds me of the heir to David Silva's throne. Even though he's a bit more attacking, he's that intricate player who can score goals. And I worry about United with those sort of players. I really do. I think these inverted wingers, these number 10s, we don't have a great record with them, and that's not to mean that we won't have a bad record with them, but we and also he fits the bill because he's 19 and he can become a great player of the future. But I don't know whether he's what United need. When I look at United, we need an out-and-out right winger to complement what we've got on the left. We need a box-to-box midfielder, and we need a centre-back, and we need a right-back. And Joao Felix, to me, is none of those things. He's a sort of an off-the-striker, inverted winger, of which we've tried and failed with that. And also, I must say this for both players, with Portugal, you've got to be very careful. Even the Portuguese press say that, look, every player is the next Ronaldo, but we've had our fingers burnt with a few players like this. When you look at players such as Renato Sanchez, he was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. I used to have him in my FIFA team a couple of years ago next to Pogba, and they'd run the game. And where's Renato Sanchez now? I don't bloody know. I don't know. So you've got to be careful with stuff like that, and he's going to cost £100 million. And you know, I do believe United need to go for younger players, but I don't know. I worry about that. Bruno Fernandes, I think, is a better fit, and he's a cheaper player. I mean, still 100 million release clause instead of 130. But Bruno Fernandes is more of a... He can play centre midfield. He's more of an attacking midfielder. To be honest with you, he would play in the Paul Pogba position. He hasn't got the physicality of Pogba. I think he's about 5'9", 5'11", and Pogba's 6'3". But his creativity, his goal scoring, and the fact that he has got that more central element to his game. He's not somebody you're going to play off the left or off the right. He is a central attacking midfielder. I think he's an interesting option for United. And United are certainly more around Bruno. If you look at the press reports, the reliable ones, United are more around Bruno Fernandes than they are Joao Felix. And Joao Felix is obviously the man of the moment because he scored a hat-trick last night. But I think Joao Felix is probably more suitable to the way Man City play, whereas Bruno Fernandes is probably more suitable to us. But if you did spend 80 million on Bruno Fernandes, what is the future of Paul Pogba? Because I think Fernandes plays in the role that Pogba does. A lot of people say, well, you could play Pogba and Fernandes, but that makes your midfield ridiculously imbalanced because that means you CDM and you've got two attacking midfielders. I know Pogba can play deeper, but I think we all agree that, well, maybe Pogba becomes the box-to-box, but has he got the discipline for that? I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting, but these fees are there. That's the point. You know, big transfers fees are set. 90 million for Koulibaly, you'll get him. 80 million for Bruno Fernandes, you will get him. It's just whether people think that's worth it. Mark, what do you think of Tielemans, says Nick P. He's on loan at Leicester and playing so well. 21 years of age, I can see him being a top player in the Premier League. I've spoken about Tielemans before. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I really, really do. I just don't think we can get him. I actually mentioned him in in January. We were slightly linked to him, and he went on loan to Leicester in January. And I remember mentioning it on a video, saying, why are we not getting him? Imagine if we'd done that deal in January. Look at the I'm never going to go back on a lot of things that I say. If I'm proved wrong, I will do. I'm not a hypocrite. You know, McTominay is convincing me now after 18 months of looking bang average. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and say he's the best thing since sliced bread, because I've said that. You know, that can be proved wrong. But at the moment, I can see why there was a bit of hype about him behind the scenes. McMayonnaise, we've got the McMayonnaise emoji if people want to get that out. But, yeah, look, with Tielemans, I think that he was available on loan, which means he can go back in the summer. We should have gone after Tielemans in January. I said in January that we should have got a couple of players in. We got nothing in. And I think that was very unfair on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And there was a lot of fans at the time, and I think the board hid behind this as well. Ole's at the wheel. We're winning all the games and we're unbeaten. And a lot of people said as well, this ain't going to happen to the end. We're not going to go unbeaten until the end of the season. It's not going to happen. And I remember saying in January, and a few people agreed, that was the time to strengthen. I'm a firm believer that you strengthen when you're doing well. Of course, you've got to strengthen when you're doing badly, but momentum's important. If you strengthen yourself when you're doing well, it's only going to make you stronger when things go wrong. Imagine if we got Tielemans in from Monaco on loan to the end of the season. When Herrera, Matic and everyone else was injured, he could have come into the midfield. And look at what he's doing for Leicester. He's very, very good. The problem is now, that was a mistake. We should have tried to do that deal. We didn't do it. Leicester have got first refusal, so it's off the shop shelf. Unfortunately, I do like him though. Lugman Osman says, do you think Napoli would be interested in an Eric Bailly plus cash deal for Koulibaly? Maybe 60 million plus Bailly. It's interesting. I mean, those sort of deals never seem to materialise much. I mean, we saw it with Sanchez and Mkhitaryan in a technical way. I think Eric Bailly if Napoli are going to lose Koulibaly, I think Eric Bailly would be. I mean, he's not a like-for-like replacement, but there are similarities. They're both quite athletic. They're both quite fast. I think Koulibaly's far more technical than Eric Bailly. But, Eric Bailly's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, again, he's one of these players that just seems to be a fan favourite, but yet again, it's his second season where he spent so much of it injured, and you have to start saying that's a problem. Virgil Hainsey, Lozano's my bet. Cheap, exciting, revenue boosting. I'd really like to bring Lozano in. 40 million, you've got him as well. I would. I really like him. Would any of you like take Toni Kroos, by the way? I know I sort of brushed over it a little bit, but £50 million for Toni Kroos. Would you do the deal? And I ponder for a minute while you start talking about it. Don Snaps is 25 today. Happy birthday. Samuel R says, what the hell has happened with Bay? I don't know. James Maddison's a good player, says Jackie Temp. I think Leicester are going to be a good team under Brendan Rodgers. The handbrake's off and they've got some good players. Apparently Skriniar's about to sign a new contract, Vishnu, but as I've said before, Koulibaly, Skriniar, De Ligt, Varane, one of those four, and I'll be very, very happy. But with Toni Kroos, no, Kroos is too slow, says Tat Games. That would be a concern. Louis Barwood says no, not really. Paul Robinson says no, he's no more 29-year-olds. Queen in the North says no. George Kyle says he would take Kroos. And I think my initial hunch is no, because of his age and his pace. I think that would be a problem in a fast pace of the Premier League. I mean, you look at Pogba and Fred against Barcelona, and I thought that they played okay. Fred very, very well. You put him in the Premier League, and you're always on edge. And the Premier League, technically, it's not as good as other leagues, but the Premier League is so fast. You know, a bang average player like Jordan Henderson can look pretty good in the Premier League because he runs around a lot. But the technicality and you don't get as much space. And Toni Kroos is a very technically good player, but can you imagine him in the Premier League at touching 30 with people like Jordan Henderson buzzing around him? I think he'd struggle. I think it would be almost another Schweinsteiger. So I wouldn't do it. But the main reason I wouldn't do it, he is a good player and maybe he would be a good signing. But do you think Liverpool want him? Do you think Man City want him? And I think this is the problem. Why don't Real Madrid want him anymore? Do we want cast-offs from those sort of clubs? And also, I think we need to be lowering our average age of our squad as well. I would take Kroos purely because I think he needs a new challenge and probably has a few great years left in him, says Nick P. And Young needs the boot as soon as possible, says Jack Bagley. Toni Kroos equals new Schweinsteiger, says Lugman Osman. And Vicky189. Mark, if we all agree we are stopped for Pogba and he will be gone in 2 years, isn't it better long-term that Ollie builds a team without him now? It's an interesting point, that is, Vicky. I mean, Pogba, you could almost do a show on Pogba. My feeling is that I love Paul Pogba, but I don't see his long-term future at Manchester United. And then that creates the point. I'm never going to be that man, unless Pogba does something that's obviously publicly undermining our club. I'm never going to be that person that goes in on him like a lot of people. But I understand why people, you know, maybe don't want him. But I think, is Paul Pogba's long-term future at Manchester United? I think he'll be here next season, like Ollie said. Is his long-term future here? Probably not. If he's not going to be here in 2 years, should you just sell him now and rebuild? It's a great question. It's a great question. And that's why I love you all, because you're brilliant at that sort of thing. In fact, I was doing an interview the other day and I was saying this, and I was like, you know, the United Stand community, and I'm going to blow a bit of smoke up your arse here. I said, it's worldwide. It always has been. Even if there was only 10 people watching in day one, you'd still get a couple of people who weren't from the UK. But the great thing is, I know I can go on with an opinion, but I can not know something and speak about it and say to the comments, whether it's live or not, what's your thoughts on this? And you'll get the answer instantaneously. I just love the fact that, I mean, it's great that people watch the show, but I love the fact that we've got such knowledge and opinion out there. It absolutely is fantastic. What's the hoodie all about? Oh, I've even forgot. I forgot to plug the merch. So last night I had the United Stand FC kit on, the red one. I can tell you, actually, exclusive news, that this kit, the black one, is outselling the red kit, which is disappointing because I actually wore the red kit yesterday. I haven't even worn this one yet. So that is outselling the red kit. The long sleeve black United Stand FC away kit is the best seller at the moment. However, I'm currently wearing, as you can see, the United Stand kit has its own badge designed by Drawty, but we do have some stuff that you can get hold of which has the United Stand badge on, and I'm wearing a black hoodie, Adidas of course. You can get all this through the link in the video description. We do have our own United Stand stuff available now. The hoodie is absolutely fantastic. I've had it on all day. It's nice and snug, and I'll wear it down the gym if I ever go down the gym, but it's nice. And I had the tracksuit top on this morning for the Solskjaer thing. So yeah, links in the video description if you want to get hold of it. And as I've said with all this, look, if you don't want to buy it, you don't have to buy it. Nobody's forcing you to. But the one thing I always said if we were going to do it is I wanted it to be good quality stuff that I would wear. I'm not going to charge somebody 20 quid for a t-shirt that's after 2 washes is a load of shit. just to make money. It's got to be quality. And when you look at the backgrounds, you look at the United stand over the years, the one thing we're very, very big on is professional sort of image and quality. And that's why we are using, the badges are fantastic, and Adidas, everything. So, yeah, it's well worth it if you want to get it, because the quality is really, really good. Link in the video description. There we go. And this is the black hoodie. Yeah. So you'll be seeing more of this anyway. I love it. I love it. How much would Fernandes cost, says Onyx J. I don't know which Fernandes you're talking about. I'd rather spend 300 million on 3 quality players than 300 million on 6 mediocre players. It won't take one granted to fix the mess we're in regardless, says Imati7. I think that's the one enduring thing I had from the game against Barcelona in midweek, is that we are 5 or 6 players away from being a big competitor, without doubt. Mark, would you take Douglas Costa, says Deepak. So yeah, I mean, Douglas Costa, he's a good player. He's a right winger. He's at Juventus. I think he's 28 now. Would I take him over nobody? Yes. It's a bit like the Alderweireld thing. Would I take Costa or Alderweireld over nobody this summer? Yes. If you're telling me we're not getting a right winger unless it's Douglas Costa, if you're telling me we're not getting a centre-back unless it's Alderweireld, yes. But would I want them to be our number 1 targets? No. There's numerous right wingers you can go for. I'd go over Douglas Costa, who are younger and I think can develop here. And the same with the centre backs. So yeah, that would be my honest answer to that. Meunier, Rojo, Kroos, Bruno Fernandes, Joao Felix. There's a couple of things I want to talk about the Spanish lads actually. Mata and Herrera. So Juan Mata has been linked to, I mean, we've spoken about Joao Felix, Grayson Burden. In relation to Juan Mata, where do we stand on Juan Mata? Where do we stand on Juan Mata? I think he's 31. He's definitely lost a yard of pace for me. He's a fantastic human being. Absolutely brilliant. I've met him. We've done stuff with him on the channel. He does stuff with other people. He's absolutely fantastic. He's an ambassador for the charity that he uses. He's a well-educated guy. I think he's been misused at United for the 6 years he's been here. I think we've not got the best out of him, but he's still managed to do big things. I'll never forget Wanfield. But I think it's time for him to move on. And I was thinking about this afternoon, because I think it's really, I get it when people get annoyed when I say get rid of Mata. He's part of the Deadwood, and people like him so much they're like, that's so disrespectful. And I agree. So I was thinking about it tonight. I was thinking, how do you word this situation with Mata to make it clear why you want him to move on, but not disrespect the man? Because in relation to people like Ashley Young, I think he deserves the criticism he gets. I don't think Juan Mata deserves it, but I think they both need to leave the club. So with Juan Mata, he's been linked to Barcelona, and people think, well, if Barcelona want him, we shouldn't be letting him go. And I think that's a very simplistic view to have. I disagree. I think if you're Barcelona and you've got Juan Mata, he's the sort of player that with the first team you've got can make a big difference. But Manchester United, Juan Mata is ineffectual, because you're carrying Mata, let's be honest. He's coming towards the end of his career. He's not the player he was, but in little fits and sparks and against the lesser teams in the league, he can be a really useful player to come on and change a game, or to rest other players for. And I think it's almost a retirement home for Mata, isn't it? Go to Barcelona, play for a very good team, and be a useful player. And also, the bottom line is, if you put Juan Mata in a Barcelona team, he's going to be a far better Juan Mata than he is in a Manchester United team. You know, you start him against Rayo Vallecano, and he's got Messi and Suarez and Rakitic and Busquets around him. You know, he's going to get decent ball. He's going to get time on the ball. He's probably going to get more space. He might get a couple of goals. You put Juan Mata in a Manchester United team away to bloody Everton, and he's got Lukaku whacking the ball back in his face. He's got Martial out of form. He's got Pogba swamped. He's got Matic passing it sideways. Juan Mata becomes a crap, ineffective player because he hasn't got the pace. And I think that's the best explanation I could give about Mata. I think if you stick him in a Barcelona team, they're an established, one of the best teams in the world. Juan Mata's going to be fine, because they can carry that sort of player and he can offer something to them with the space and quality he's got around him. But Juan Mata in a United team, he hasn't got the space and the quality about him, and the league's a lot quicker. So that explains it to me. That's why Barcelona want Mata, because he can bring something to them in the already brilliant team that they've got. One matter for Manchester United that are nowhere near that level and have lesser quality players around him. I don't think one matter offers much to us anymore. So I think the Barcelona thing makes a lot of sense, if that makes sense to you lot. Mata is better than Pogba, says Eliantano. Mata would suit Barca pretty well, says Tony Martial. You could say that about Pogba, De Gea and Martial would be better in a better squad, says Calamity Jones. Yeah, I think in a different way, you're right. I think if you stick Pogba in a Real Madrid team, he becomes a better Pogba. More space, better players around him. But for different reasons. Pogba's in his prime, De Gea's in his prime. Mata is never getting any better, he's only going to get worse. Mata is looking at his last contract. What's better for Mata? I think Mata's going to get more enjoyment and more success out of his career going to Barcelona to end it than he is being part of this United journey that I think is going to get worse before it gets better. I don't think you can start Juan Mata in games anymore, whereas I think Barcelona probably can find a place for him in games. And as we know in the Premier League, Barcelona go away to a team in the bottom half. They're going to win it 3 or 4-0. United, and that's probably where they play Mata. United go away to bloody Huddersfield and it's frenetic, it's fast-paced, and Mata becomes a weakness. So that's just my opinion on it anyway. Nick P says, any player who loves our club will behave as Gary Neville did. Realise he's finished, end it. Others who continue just love the paycheck. Well, I think we're talking about Ashley Young there, aren't we? Savic has been really poor this season, says Chloe Jenkins. Griezmann, Pogba and Martial, French class, says the Music Channel. Barca will struggle when Messi is finished, says Fraser. Well, that's not a bad thing, is it? It's it's like saying, my Ferrari's going to struggle if you take fifth gear off me. That's a metaphorical Ferrari. I haven't got a Ferrari. I've got a Vauxhall Astra, which you'll all see tomorrow. Make sure tomorrow morning we've got a nice little video for you. It's a vlog we did when we were going up to do the photo shoot a week ago. Me, Flex and Rants. And the vlog bit's good, but it's the banter on way and on everything that's going on in the car. If you want to see Goldbridge at the wheel in a Vauxhall Astra, make sure you got your notifications on for tomorrow morning. You'll see the car that I drive. Just think Del Boy with his Robin Reliance. That's me. I drive a crappy old Vauxhall Astra all around the country, and I do it because I've had the car for over 10 years and I just like it. And it's a little shitty, but I like it. Anyway, you can see that in the morning. But yeah, you take Messi away. He's one of the best players the world's ever had. So Barcelona will be lesser without him. Of course they will. But Don snaps that, so they might just buy the next Messi. Which brings me on to Herrera. I want to draw a line under Herrera. Not literally. That would be weird if he was stood there and I got a little chalk line and said stand still. But there's so much different conflicts about Ander Herrera now. There's so many different truths and half-truths. And I think everyone's just got to make their own mind up and respect each other, certainly within the United Stand community. My stance with Ander Herrera is that the club's made a big mistake. They've let his contract run down. The evidence is there. They've done it with Mata, with De Gea, with Martial, with Smalling, with Jones, with Pereira, with Fellaini. We've done it with so many players. We clearly are a board that let contracts run down. And that's a fact with Herrera. And I think that's a shame for a player who might not be our best player, but is certainly a player that was fundamental to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he's going to probably lose him in the summer. Then you move to that next stage where Herrera's out of contract and the whole world knows he's out of contract, and some bright spark club says to Ander Herrera, well, we haven't got to pay you a transfer fee, so we're going to give you massive wages and a big lump sum to come and play for us. And let's hypothetically say that that's PSG, and they're saying we're going to give you £200,000 a week and we're going to give you $5 million just to come to the club because we haven't got to give United anything. And Ander Herrera goes, wow, okay, United, I would like to stay here, hypothetically, but PSG are going to pay me 200 grand a week and they're going to give me a $5 million signing on fee. What are you going to give me? Yeah, we're not going to give you any more than £150,000 a week. And that's where you make your own mind up. Is Herrera wrong or is he right to go to PSG? I think it's sad and I think it's United's fault, if that's the story. What you also need to consider with Ander Herrera is that he's been at the club for 5 years. He spat on the badge of Man City when he went off against at the Etihad. Every other club thinks he's a shithouse because he is a shithouse in a United shirt. He gets in everybody's face and he plays for the shirt. He's been on £80,000 a week for 5 years, and for most of his time here, he's been paid less money than people like Phil Jones, Ashley Young, etc., etc. there's a story come out today, which I'm going to be even-handed here, that Ander Herrera wants £300,000 a week. United were willing to offer him £200,000 a week, but he wants £300,000 a week, and Manchester United have decided that they don't want to pay him that. And it's Ander Herrera's decision to leave Manchester United. This has come out this afternoon from quite a credible journalist. I think it was in Forbes. And a lot of people are calling him a mercenary and a snake again. I personally do not get how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talks about Herrera in his press conference this morning, glowingly says that he is frustrated because he's injured and he can't play for the team. Herrera's frustrated, that he wants to pick him, and that the contract situation is ongoing. We've had that statement twisted by some journalists to make it sound like he's injured on purpose, which is not what Solskjaer said. And then we've had this story come out that Herrera's been offered wants £300,000 a week. So a player that's been at this club happy for 5 years on £80,000 a week suddenly wants to more than triple his wages to £300,000 a week. I think it's a load of bollocks. I genuinely do. But that's my opinion. And I think what needs to happen with the Ander Herrera situation is, you've made your mind up. I've made my mind up. Let's just see what happens. But I personally think the club's made a bloody mess of it. I think they're making a mess of De Gea's situation. And I think that they need a director of football desperately, because these are the things that, if you look in the past, when Beckham left, that was a big loss, but Ronaldo was brought in. We've done that in the past. Rooney came in around the time Van Nistelrooy was coming towards the end of his career. When we lost Hughes, Ince and Kanchelskis in one summer, we had the class of 92 coming through. There's been plans in the past for United for continuity, and it started to go wrong when Ronaldo left and we went with Michael Owen Valencia, and we've not been long-term planning for a long time, and it's been gradually getting worse and worse. And I think with the loss of Sir Alex, with the crap managers that we've appointed and the short-termism, we're now in a situation where we're continually missing the boat in relation to the forward planning of Manchester United Football Club. We are letting... Look, whatever you think about Herrera, let's move on from him. De Gea, Martial, these are contracts that went into their final years, and they are two of the most valuable players we've got at the club. We need a director of football because players are getting pissed off. And what if the scenario with Ander Herrera is that he's decided he wants to go because he can't believe how amateurish this club has acted? And it was only a year ago, and I was no Fellaini fan, but it was only a year ago Fellaini publicly said, the way I've been treated by this club is ridiculous, and now it's their own fault that I'm out of contract with all the power. And it's come round again, and some people still want to believe that the club have acted fine and absolutely fine. Maybe they have, but my opinion is that the way they've handled this is a joke. But I think a line needs to go under it, because I think what's happening now, we're seeing such contrast day to day in the stories. Yesterday, somebody was saying, who I think is a very good journalist, was saying that £150,000 is what Herrera wants. United won't give it him. Well, Matters on 140. Today, you've got another journalist saying that Herrera wants £300,000. That's double. Well, one of those two people are lying. And one thing I think about the press is that there can be leaks from the club to make the club look good. There can be leaks from Herrera to make Herrera look good. Whatever, I'm out. I'm not interested anymore. I think it's a mistake to let him go, but we've got bigger things to fry, and we will move on as a club. Vicky189 says, Mark, one player we've never discussed is Malcolm. He's out of place at Barca, not a reject, around 60 million, and he's immensely talented as a right winger. He'd be a risk. He would be a risk. I would say that. Jack the skipper says £300,000 for Herrera. Does he think he's Hazard? I don't believe that story, Jack. It doesn't make sense. He's been on 80 grand a year, and 80 grand a week, and he wants £300,000 a week. And the best bit of that story is, they said he wants £300,000 a week for 5 years, but United were willing to give him £200,000 a week for 4 years. It's just a badly written article, and it's so bad it could be true, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think Pogba will go in the summer, says Paul Farrell. I really don't. I think Pogba will stay at Manchester United. I really do. But I've done the preview on West Ham. I'm not going to dwell on the West Ham game. Friday night's more of a relaxed chat, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy talking about the long term about United as much as I do the short term. We got to win tomorrow, though. We've got to win tomorrow. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody. And let's see if we can get over 500 likes while we are live. If you want to join the United Stand Members Club, you can do. There's a join button. You get your little United Stand FC badge next to your name. Your name becomes green, and you get access to the emojis, which is useful for the game tomorrow. We will be doing a watch-along, of course. I'm with you, Andrew Kamar. I think it's a bullshit article. I really do. Who do you think we will buy realistically, says Bray? It's so difficult. It's so difficult. It's like, it really is like, it's a windy day, and this is probably more for men than women, because I don't know how it works for women, but it's a windy day, you drop your pants, you go for a wee, and it's like, does the wind blow on you or does it blow away? And we are effectively pissing in the wind with transfers as fans to predict what's going to go on. The only thing I've heard, and I'm not going to lie and pretend, oh, look at me, I've got links in with the club or anything like that. That's not how it works anyway. You'll hear things from people who do. The Mounier thing. I've heard that the Mounier thing could be a goer because he's got 1 year left in his contract, and they do like Delot, and they see Mounier as an experienced right back to sort of kick Valencia and Young out, which I'd be all for. I think Mounier is a good player. But other than that, I don't know. I have heard the person who said that Herrera was off. Herrera wants £150,000 a week. They said that Jadon Sancho is looking very likely in the summer, but that was a few weeks ago. I don't know. I really don't know. I can predict who will do, but it's going to be very interesting. I mean, and let's not forget as well, if you're asking me, you've got to bet your house on what United are going to do this summer, I would have to look back on the facts and think, well, we might not spend hardly anything because that's the owners we've got. And there are still people out there saying that the Glazers are going to sell the club this summer. I mean, so, what you do know with Manchester United is that we're always going to be box office and we're always going to be front page news. And continuity and calm are not Manchester United. It never has been. In my whole lifetime, it's never been like that. I remember when Sir Alex Ferguson, I always remember being about 7 or 8 years of age, and I bought Match magazine every week, and I opened it up, and they had this little cartoon, and it was this robot being unwrapped, and it had a price tag of probably £20 million, because £20 million in the late 80s would have been the equivalent of about 400 million. When you consider that Trevor Francis, I think, was the first £1 million player in 1979. And in 1993 or 4, was it, that Roy Keane went to Manchester United for 3.6 million. So in 88, 20 million would have been a lot of money for a player. Anyway, they were unwrapping this robot with a £20 million price tag, and then Sir Alex Ferguson stood next to it. And then it's like, this is United's next new signing, because United were being perceived in the late 80s as a club that was just chucking the money around trying to be successful. And we did spend a lot of money. You think about like the Mal Donahues, the Mike Phelans, the Neil Webbs, the people like that. We did spend a lot of money to try and be successful, but it was all our own money. So yeah, it's like United have always, people think, oh, United are a modern phenomenon. We've always been it. Even in the late 80s, when we haven't won the title for over 2 decades, we were always the front page team. Manchester United have always been that. They've always had that aura about them. The only team that comes close is Liverpool. We're a massive club, and we always have been. And these people like the City fans, the Arsenal fans, the Chelsea fans, who cling on to the fact that, oh, I don't want United to win the title for the next 20 years. Liverpool haven't won the title for nearly 30 years. They're still a big club. United could not win the title for 50 years. We'd probably get bigger and more exposure for that. We're always going to be a massive club. A massive club. Theo Freeman says it's pronounced Joao Felix. Great. Couldn't give a shit, really. I'll pronounce it how I like. I've always done that. Arjen Robin. Toni Kroos. And trying to wind people up with more pronunciations that I do. What other players do I get wrong? Hudson Odoi. Yeah, I'll pronounce them how I want. That's the way. I don't know about the early 1900s Ryan McSquiggan. I wasn't quite around then. But look, I've had a really good show tonight. Really, really good show. I really, really enjoyed it. Interestingly enough, somebody just said there, get the Saudi owners. Apparently PSG owners are looking to buy an English club. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole show in itself as well, isn't it? It's like talking about whether Pogba should be sold because he's going to go in 2 years or not. Maybe we could do a show about that. Unless we have an owner who understands football, the current situation will go on, says Sergit Daz. I certainly think the problem with Manchester United is at the top and not at the manager level anymore. Paminda Dillon says, loves the show. Thanks, Paminda, for becoming a member of the club. I can see you've got the little badge next to your name. And Rug and DK Falcon. Nice to see so many members in the live comments. We've got some really good shows for you tomorrow. We've got the watch along, obviously, which will be about 4:30 UK time because it's 5:30 kickoff. But make sure you're subscribed and make sure you got your notifications on, because tomorrow morning we're putting up the vlog. And if you like me and Flex and rants, it's just a little bit behind the scenes stuff that goes on with the United stand, and there's some funny stuff in the car. That's all I'm going to say. So watch out for that in the morning. And what else? Yeah, please do drop a like on video. And yeah, United stand stuff. If you want to get a hoodie, or you want to get one of the kits, or what else have we got? T-shirts, polos. It's getting summer now. Link in the video description. United stand merch is now available. It's there. Get it if you want to get it. Link in the video description. Just go and have a look at it. It's cracking stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up. What's that all about? That's so 80s.